Welcome to KUMB TV, and I'm delighted to be joined today by the chairman of Hammers United, Paul Colbourne. We've not heard a lot from you since lockdown began in March. Paul, how are you doing?
Yeah, well, I'm not doing so good because I've lost my job. But Hammers United, we're progressing. Obviously, when the crisis hit, we really were forced to reevaluate. Obviously, there were more important things going on than West Ham and GSB out. It wasn't time to focus on a supporters group or a protest. And indeed, we felt it would be disrespectful, Graeme, to carry on sort of demanding a public audience, as it were. I've got a personal friend at West Ham. I'm not going to say his name, but a good lad, been going to West Ham donkey's years. His wife passed away because of coronavirus. I've lost my job. I know loads of other people who have, and it just didn't seem right to carrying on as we were.
Before we begin, and for the benefit of those viewers who are unaware of your group, can you give us a brief explanation of how Hammers United came into being and what it is exactly you're trying to achieve?
Well, it's a long while ago now. Right. I was personally hugely unhappy at the goings on at the club, as were a lot of my friends. And I've been sounding friends out about starting a supporters group up to try and improve things for West Ham fans. And a few things happened that were just the sort of final straw. My good friend Lee Rogers, who's our joint secretary, he rang West Ham up to renew his season ticket, for example, and it was band whatever, band A, band B. And they said, right, that'd be so much money. And he said, no, it's this price. And they said, no, it's not. And it turned out they'd moved the line without telling anybody. And that was a bit, to me, the final straw. And we weren't really ready to launch, but we launched nevertheless. And basically, a few like-minded people, others I didn't even know that seemed kindred spirits, shall we say, of social media, arranged a meeting in a pub and basically said, look, what do you think? Should we go with this? Should we give it a go? And people said, well, why not? Before not too long, we were affiliated, fully affiliated, that is, to the Football Supporters Association. We've had a working committee in place for months now. We meet regularly. It's all minuted. Obviously, we would have had by now an AGM. Obviously, we've not been able to have that. I think we've had 2 members' meetings, again, all minuted. And so I believe we're run professionally, and we're very aware that we're answerable to the members, and we do what our members ask us. We are not a protest group. We are a fans group, and our aim is to improve things for West Ham supporters. However, West Ham have refused to meet us on so many occasions now, and eventually our members decided that our campaign had to turn to Gold Sullivan braiding out. And at the moment, that is where we are.
Hammers United was gathering momentum following much publicised protests staged in January and February of this year. You had 2,000 to one meeting, 8,000, possibly even more at the most recent protest.
Yeah.
But everything ground to a halt in March.
Yeah.
In your latest missive, you stated that to have demanded a public audience for matters West Ham related would have been disrespectful.
Yeah.
How do you think lockdown has affected the group's position?
I think it's just delayed things. I believe our position is at least as strong. Obviously, we're not recruiting as quickly as if West Ham were playing and we were meeting up with fans. But I mean, we've made 40, I think, this week. I went to Plaistow and I got 11 on Sunday. And these are all what I'd call grassroots supporters who either still go or have walked away but went for a long while. These are people who would turn out on protests if asked. And we have, I believe, when we had the last protest, Graeme, it was just a few under 12,000 members. And we've now 13,300. Now, a lot of those people I know, I've signed them up myself, and I know they'll be there if the call goes out. So whilst it's delayed things, I believe that when there are further protests, they'll be better supported than before. I don't believe any momentum has been lost at all.
You released a statement last week to your 13,000 plus members exactly 100 days after lockdown officially began,
Yep.
giving an update. Can you tell us what you're currently working on? I know you've mentioned season ticket refunds as one of the key areas. What's the state of play there?
The state of play there is that through our work with the Football Supporters Association, Graeme, and liaising, shall we say, or comparing notes with other Premier League supporters groups, it probably won't surprise you to know that the two clubs that handled it worst were Newcastle and West Ham, which is a pretty consistent theme when looking at how clubs in the Premier League deal with their supporters. And I remind you, I'm sure you don't need reminding, of the board's 10-point plan, where it says point 10, the most important, listen to what you have to say, be open, transparent, and available. We emailed David Sullivan saying that when you're going to put a statement out, what's going on about the season ticket refunds? Because most other clubs had already started the process. Actually, his first reply, I can't really repeat, but in fairness to David Sullivan, he followed that up pretty quickly and said, look, an announcement's going out very quick, and it did. But we were still one of the last clubs. And as you probably remember, Graeme, initially it was a little bit confusing. And it sort of almost implied that those people who took the club cash would be in a better position. If you asked for a cash refund, it might compromise your position on the list. So members asked us to get clarification. It wasn't just Hammers United. I know Hammers chat did. And they said, oh, it's badly worded. Don't worry, everything's fine. The next thing, I believe, sort of club cash fell out of the sky and ended up in everyone's accounts with no explanation, no breakdown. But then the next thing was members were saying, well, we can get clarification on that. So, okay, we've got clarification on that. No, what you had to do was phone the club up and say that you wanted the actual cash refund. Then I think it changed. In fact, they emailed everyone. The whole point is it was made as bloody ponderous as possible. Again, West Ham say they want to be as transparent and available as possible. I believe it would have been so much better if they just said to everybody, look, difficult times, got real cash flow problems here. We recognise that a lot of our fans are in the same boat. But those of you who maybe haven't been affected financially, maybe you could do us a bit of a favour here. But they never word it like that, you know? So I had a member ring me up and he said, you know, I've rung West Ham up. I said, I want the cash refund. He said, and talking to a gentleman there, one of the staff, and he said, well, look, really, you should take the club cash because next year there's only going to be so many people let in the stadium. And that way you'll be one of them. I mean, what a load of crap that is, you know, as if that's the way of deciding. That'd be blackmail anyway. I had a beer on Sunday with some of my good friends. One of them comes down from the Midlands, goes to every single match, hasn't missed a match for about 40 years. And he was laughing and joking. I said, what's all that? He said, I rang them up and I said, I want the money back. And they said, well, you have club cash, take it off your next season ticket. I said, well, I'm not renewing. And they said, of course you're renewing, you always renew. And he said, all right. He said, fair enough. But it's not good. That's not the way to deal with your supporters. And then we got the issue with the badge. I know there was some sort of consultation about the shirt, but I'm damned if I know about any consultation of the badge. Personally, I don't like London on it. Doesn't matter what I think, it matters what the masses think. But I think there's a lot of people who don't like London on it. Don't mind if it was East London. Don't need bloody London on it. All part of Brady's rebranding. Now, I'm sure that they said they would consult on that. Going back to their words, open, transparent, and available, I don't believe that was done. But actually, our main work, Graeme, to be frank, is being with the Football Supporters Association, looking to develop framework for fan engagement with the board. Now, as you would know, the official supporters board, they've now disbanded, last met in April. There was a forerunner for that. So the official supporters board is the second attempt. They're now making a third attempt. And what they've got to understand, Graeme, is that this is a fans body, not a Hammers United body, a West Ham fans body, to meet with the board. It is no good having a club constraint. It is no good them being bloody involved in the formation of a fans board. It has to come from the fans. And we're working in conjunction with the FSA, coming up with something here, a good platform, to build on. When we're happy with it, we'll put it to our members. And then it will go not just to our members, because the only way this works is to get the backing of all the West Ham fans. It will go out to the broader West Ham fan group. So when this supporters group is in place, and we believe it has to be in place, it's a framework then to consult with the club regularly. Well, we wouldn't be able to be involved in that until our supporters said, no, that's okay now, we endorse you doing that, fine. But what we must remember, Graeme, is there's a bigger end goal here. Gold, Sullivan and Brady aren't going to be here forever. And when new owners come along, there has to be something left. There has to be something to build on. And so that is very, very important. That would be in place. So we're working, more my secretary than me, working very closely with the FSA towards that. But as I say, at the moment, we'd have to get endorsement before we attended any meetings, because at the moment, our members are saying, no, we want them out. Simple as that.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to raise with you, actually, with regards to the current board. You maintained in your recent statement that the best West Ham can hope for under the current regime is 13th, given the financial position of our rivals and peers in the Premier League. And I was going to ask you, are you still of the opinion as a group that GSB out, that's obviously David Gold, David Sullivan and Karen Brady, is necessary for the club to prosper?
Well, firstly, remember, it's not my personal view. 13th place is GSB out is a collective thing. One could argue that if the board made a real effort to mend the relationship with the fans, and I believe there's some easy wins there, which I'll come on to in a minute. If they made a real effort to talk to the fans, if they started to put a proper infrastructure in at the club, with proper training facilities, proper scouting facilities, maybe a director of football. But I have to say, they're going to have to stick a few quid in as well, because it's no good doing all that and having a team that are absolutely crap. If they did all those things, it would be quite possible that our membership would change their view. But as things stands, that is their view, GSB out.
Do you think that's likely? I mean, they've been here for 10 years now. Can a leopard really change its spots?
I think it's highly unlikely. But one always hopes. I mean, there are some easy wins there, Graeme. My personal thing that upsets me is that so many thousands of good people have walked away. People who didn't walk away before when we got relegated. Is it 4 times? And all my friends, and there are many of them that have walked away, never walked away then. And what's made them walk away? Mostly, the common denominator with most is the stadium move and the unsuccessful rebrand. Now, we've recently had this stadium survey come out. It says 5% of the fans are happy with the performance of the board. Let's look at Karen Brady. She says she's the first lady of football, and she is the main person behind this 5% believe the board are doing a good job. She's the one that said the most successful stadium migration in history, with the survey saying only 5% of the fans believe the club value them as a supporter and listen to their concerns. When their 10 points said the most important thing is to listen to what you have to say. She's the one who's presided over all this. And I believe that in most businesses, one way or the other, she would be gone. Now, you look at Leicester. Leicester have Sue Whelan as their chief executive. Quiet, unassuming, professional. Their club has got ongoing success. It's improving on and off the pitch. They've got a united board. They've got players, the board, the supporters, all pulling in the same direction. And then we've got West Ham, divided, disillusioned. Now, I think in most other businesses, she'd have been gone. But there are some easy wins there for them, Graeme. You've got the stewarding, that's still not what it should be. You've got hundreds of fans there that have been banned for non-criminal offences, mostly not given the normal process of natural justice don't know if anywhere, but certainly most weren't given the opportunity to see video evidence. Most weren't given the opportunity to appeal. Perhaps West Ham should say, right, we'll relook at those bans. Perhaps we'll let some of these people back. The away fans in their home sections really bugs people. You know, we're not talking about aggro here. We're talking about you and your mate sitting there, you sing I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles, and then the bloke next to you jumps up and down when the other team score. Season ticket waiting list. But maybe the most of all is the customer service. There's some good staff members there. There's some crap ones as well. But the whole way they go about things, as illustrated by the badge, as illustrated by the season ticket refunds. The seats close to the pitch. Now, they are doing something, I hope, this summer. And I do hope that comes to fruition. I know that a lot of the seats aren't going to be covered. I know there's going to be other issues. But okay, if they do that, good luck to them. We have looked at more the end game. And what it was ascertained was that we believe there is a system there, a hydraulic system, where the pitch could be moved up. They said they thought it would cost 200 million and that could be recouped in 10 years by putting in extra executive boxes and things. Two things, let's be frank. Whenever anyone says 200 million, that means it'll be 300. And listen, I've never dug Gold and Sullivan out for not being mega rich. I'm not saying that they could possibly afford it. But what I think could happen is the club, we could start an independent, professional investigation, because the end possible goal, West Ham having a stadium, owning their own stadium, with the seats all much closer, is just too big an end game, to be ignored. And if the club was to look at all those things and at the same time put money in what they could, get the structure right, just maybe, some of the fans would say, do you know what? Come on, finally they're making a bit of an effort. Maybe we should hold off the protests. Now, I can't say that will happen. But at the moment, there seems to be no movement on anything. They seem stuck in their position. And so for the foreseeable future, Hammers United remain a group, shall we say, in protest mode. And I have to say, Graeme, that a lot of my personal friends, even if all those things would happen, they are adamant they will not come back to the London Stadium when Gold, Sullivan and Brady are in charge. Yeah,
that's something I was going to say, actually. I mean, this current intransigence with all these minor points, are they all kind of irrelevant at the end of the day? Because, there is quite a prevalent view that from some supporters that say that the club died in 2016.
Yeah.
And regardless of what happens now, that is it for them. They don't want to come back.
I disagree. The stadium's crap, could be made a lot better. The half of that being crap, I think, is the match day experience. Now, again, let's face it, we were told about these world-class transport links. What they didn't say was that all the bloody stations were miles away. Yeah, they're great links to get to the station, but then you've got to stagger to the ground. But that walk could be made so much better. I know West Ham don't own the land. I cannot believe that if they genuinely wanted to improve the walk, I can't believe they couldn't get their heads together with LL, whatever they are, and improve it. Remember in our day, you used to hear hats, scarves and badges, and the burger vans. And it isn't just the old codgers, My son won't go to the stadium. He's 28. There's plenty of young ones. And that stadium survey, as I'm sure you know, Graeme, which showed huge dissatisfaction with the stadium. So I think over 70% of those that filled it in were under 40 or whatever. It's all there to be seen. And actually, I'm writing another piece that will come out this week, which draws attention to it. So it isn't just old codgers like me. But I believe with love, care and attention, the board could possibly win some of the fans back. Obviously, if they spent a few quid, that wouldn't do any harm. Personally, I think it's more down to getting a structure at the club. But no, I don't believe all is lost. We need all the like-minded fans together. I'm never going to give up. But they've either got to really change their attitude and spend a few quid, or they've got to go.
To tie you down on that, who do you blame for that, Paul? Do you think that's the entire board, or do you think that's a policy pretty much the making of Karen Brady?
Well, firstly, I don't know, but I believe it's down to Brady. But on the other hand, Sullivan's the governor, and he's the boss, and yet he's gone along with it. But basically, she has failed, or the club have failed miserably. And in most other businesses, she'd be gone.
Do you think if she was fired, that would appease a lot of the angry fans that we're seeing, especially at the protests in the last few months?
It would be a step in the right direction. But I think some of the fans now are so entrenched that they want them out, and that's it. But as a committee, we have to have an open mind, and we have to be able to react to changes in circumstances. But at the end of the day, if we were to call that protest off, it would have to be put to a vote of the members, and the members would decide.
Let's talk about protests, because you stated in your latest update that Hammers United isn't a protest group.
Yeah.
However, visual protests have been very much at the core of everything you've done, or at least that's been seen in public. A number of members have also urged you, I've noticed in recent weeks, to resume your programme of protesting, which in your words you say to pick up the baton of protest against what is the most unpopular board in the history of our great club. What is Hammers United's current position on resuming visual protests?
Well, firstly, I'll be very brief about what was going to happen. Obviously, we were going to have a mass protest against Burnley, and we thought and hoped, we were confident we'd get 12,000. We had at least 2 other smaller protests arranged. I'm not going to divulge what they were, because they will take place once spectators are again in the ground. All I will say is they will not affect the team on the pitch. So we had 3 protests arranged. Now, obviously, the large one can't take place under the law at the moment. To be frank, if West Ham didn't have spectators in, we wouldn't get 12,000 to come. And the other 2, you do need spectators in the ground. We have got a committee meeting tomorrow night. We will be discussing that, because some of our members want to see protests start up. The obvious problem we have, Graeme, is, this is my personal view, the committee will decide. I cannot see how we can have a mass protest. The law, quite clear what the law says. You can't have more than 30 people together. Now, listen, we've seen big events in London recently. I'm afraid the law treats football supporters differently to everyone else. And we've done everything within the law. We break the law, I believe the board would be all over that. And I believe the police, who were very, very good, I have to say, very cooperative in the last protest, I believe the police would have no choice but to close it down. So we are talking about what we can do, but I think it would be naive and foolish to be banding about that we're going to take thousands of people down to the ground or wherever else before the law changes and the stadium has people in. I think that's all I can say.
Okay, so we shall wait to be updated on that then, because as I said, there does seem to be an awful lot of people that are ready.
There's something else I've got planned for the summer.
Yep.
Well, we've got planned for the summer. But again, it can't take place until you're allowed to have more than 30 people.
Okay. We shall wait to see what that is.
You're going to turn up, yeah.
Paul, thank you for speaking to me today. There is one more question I wanted to ask you before we go, however. And whenever I've asked you this in the past, you've always been unequivocal with your answer. And the question is this: are you still confident that West Ham United will survive the current relegation battle?
It's never been in doubt, Graeme. You only have to look at the fixtures, mate. If West Ham lose to Watford, they've still got a get-out-of-jail card against Villa. However, I'm very worried about next year. You asked me about the 13th. That is my personal view. And again, I have to say, I don't blame the board for this. I blame them for bloody lot of things. But the fact is, if you look at the wealth of these clubs we're competing with now in the Premier League, until recently you said, well, you've got the top 6 automatically. Well, now you can add Leicester and Wolves to that straight away. I can't see us getting in front of Everton. Sheffield United have got a few quid. It looks like Villa won't be in the division, but Villa have got God knows how much money. Brighton have. It's going to be so difficult to get above 13th. We never seem to try in the cups. And what is making me really upset is you're starting to feel, what's the point? because the most important thing to me personally, and a lot of my friends, is this special thing we had at West Ham, the camaraderie, the day out, the comradeship, the West Ham family. And that's all bloody going out the window. And if the team has got little chance of even having a cup run or coming in the top 2/3, you do start to think, well, what's the point of West Ham now? And as I said before, that's what we've got to get back. We've got to get feel back and the camaraderie and the day out and the West Ham family. That is my main aim. That, to me personally, is more important than a league position. But it would certainly be nice, wouldn't it, that we could challenge for sort of the 7th and get a cup run. And I believe a club of West Ham size should be able to do that. And let's face it, when we were told about moving to this new stadium, it was insinuated that we'd do better even than that. You know, the Champions League was mooted. But certainly it would be great if we could challenge for 7th and have a cup run. But as I say, to me personally, it's the whole, what I call something special about West Ham that's going that I want back.
Just quickly, Norwich have gone. Of course, we've already sent them packing back to the Championship at the weekend. Who else do you see going?
It's got to be Bournemouth, isn't it? Got to be Bournemouth. And what happens at this time of the season is you play teams at the right time when they haven't got anything to play for. So I'll stick my neck out and I'll say Watford to go down. There you go.
So you think Villa will stay up?
That's what will happen. Everton won't bother. But what West Ham and Watford won't be easy, you know. It won't be an easy match. But West Ham have still got Villa, so it doesn't matter, does it? West Ham will be up and we can go through it all again next year, mate.
And on that note, Paul, it's great to chat with you as always. Thanks for taking the time to speak
Thank
with
you.
KUMB, and good luck with Hammers United. And no doubt we'll speak again in the very near future for another update. Paul Colbourne from Hammers United, thank you very much.
Thank you, Graeme. Thanks for having me on. Cheers, mate.